Well, I was born in New York and raised a little Jewish boy. Lived there about 8 years and moved to Florida. Never really knew anything about Christians. But I was singled out and I got beat up quite a few times before I got out of that elementary school. And it got so bad that in the 8th grade, the dean of men used to have to pick me up and take me to school because I was getting beaten up on the way and leaving. Well, these were kids that, called me a Christ killer. And, I remember the first time I got beat up and was called a Christ killer, I said, I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know the man. And so I grew up with this anti-Christian attitude, knowing that the Christians were basically the enemy. But during this time, I was brought up, as I said, Jewish, and I attended the synagogue and Hebrew school and was bar mitzvahed, but there was something missing all the time. And I was fortunate enough to get a football scholarship at the University of Houston. And not wanting to experience the persecution that I experienced before, I chose to be anonymous as a Jew on the football team. And matter of fact, I listed Unitarian on the little thing there, so that they would leave me alone. Did you know
what that was?
Not really. But there was something I was looking for. You mentioned seeking. I began to seek after the Lord in a very interesting way. A friend of mine who had just gotten out of the Marines asked me if I would take him to a church in Houston because he wanted to pray. And I had a car, and it was on a Monday night, and I said I would take him. They had a crucifix in his church with the body of Jesus on the cross. And I looked at this figure hanging on the cross, and I began to think about the brokenness of this man. He looked so weak hanging there. And I thought, this man doesn't look like he could represent or be a leader of this wild pack of people that I had encountered all my life that had basically been bullies and terrorists. He just didn't look like it, So in my mind, there seemed to be a problem going on there. He's supposed to be their leader, but he doesn't look like the kind of person that would be doing that kind of thing. He just looks weak up there, and I began to question whether they were Christians or whether he had anything to do with them.
Yes.
And I actually began to ask God if this was his son.
Wow.
And Richard, a faith began to grow in me at that time that I can't really describe, except it was kind of a feeling that maybe Jesus was the Messiah. And I went home that Christmas, on Christmas vacation from school, and my dad was there at that time. This was back in 1957 or 8. And I confronted Dad about this, and he literally almost had a heart attack. He had a heart condition, which eventually took his life, but he started grabbing his nitro pills, and he started screaming at me, and my mother said, "You're trying to give him a heart attack," So, there's a scripture where Jesus says, "I did not come to bring peace on the earth, but to bring a sword in the family." And that's in Matthew, found in Matthew 10, and that's addressing a Jewish audience. Right. What Jesus is saying there is, you fellow Jews out there that are listening to me and my voice, if you accept me, there's going to be a sword come between you and your family members, and you have to be willing to accept that. Mm-hmm. And I asked God to reveal Jesus to me. I said, if he's your son, show me. And it happened. I mean, within the week, I knew who he was, and I got so excited about it. If you're honestly seeking, you're going to find the Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
God truly loves the world,
Right.
And God so loved the world that he sent his son. And no matter whether you're Russian or you're a Jew in Miami, he's going to find you. If you're seeking after him, you'll find him.